It's 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 12th day in the month of April 2023. Good morning. Welcome to Business Morning, and it's right here on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We go right into the business of the day, beginning with what's going on in the global oil space. We see that prices edged up as the market awaited or is still waiting for the United States inflation data, which is expected later on today. That will likely influence the Federal Reserve's policy on future interest rate hikes. Brent crude gained 12 cents and stood at $85.72 a barrel, while U.S. Western Texas Intermediate crude also gained 6 cents to hit $81.59 a barrel. Data from the American Petroleum Institute shows that crude inventories rose by about 380,000 barrels in the week ended April the 7th. That's a sign of market tightness, and U.S. crude futures have slipped on the backwardation, with the front month contract trading 6 cents higher than the second month. Still in the global space, Malaysian palm oil futures was down today, Wednesday, after closing at a one-week peak in the previous session, with weak April exports so far weighing on market sentiment. The benchmark palm oil contract for June delivery on the Bursa Malaysia Derivatives Exchange slid 65 ringgit, that's about 1.16%, to 3,843 ringgit, that's $870.44 a ton in early trade. For the fundamentals, exports of Malaysian palm oil products for April the 1st to the 10th fell 16.2% to 408,663 tons, and it went from 487,530 tons that was shipped during March the 1st to the 10th. India is likely to receive in 2023. The state-run weather office has said that the 5th straight year of normal or above normal summer rains that spur farm and overall economic growth in Asia's third biggest economy. And then to the commodities market, Chicago soybean futures ticked lower on Wednesday, giving up some of the last session's gains, although the market was supported by the United States estimate of lower output in key supplier Argentina, which rose slightly on concerns over dryness curbing U.S. winter crop yield potential. There was a jump in Brazilian production, partially offset the sharp drop in Argentine production. And also the most active soybean contracts on the Chicago Board of Trade lost 0.2% to $14.94 for half a bushel. And wheat gained 0.2% to $6.75 for half a bushel. And corn was down 0.2% to $6.49 for 3/4 of a bushel. Some comforting news came from the spring meeting going on at Washington, D.C. yesterday, that Nigeria's economy is one of the most stable on the continent. This assessment is coming from the IMF team, while presenting the World Economic Outlook for the 2023 at the ongoing IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C. IMF head of research, Daniel Lee, says that in spite of high inflation in the country, tightening monetary policy would address major concerns in the economy. He also gave an outlook for Africa's second largest economy, South Africa, which is expected to experience a slowdown in the current year.
For Nigeria, our forecast is one of the most stable ones. For this year, we have a slight increase. We have 3.3% in 2022. That's an upward revision. And for 2023, about the same, 3.23% in 2024. So this is an economy with very high inflation as well. And this is why we have a forecast of about 20% for 2023. And one of our main recommendations is to tighten the monetary policy to ensure that this inflation comes down towards the more target levels. So that's for Nigeria. For South Africa, this is an economy where we have a sharp slowdown to about 0.1% growth this year. That's a minus 1.1 percentage point revision, and this mainly reflects the much more severe than expected outages in the energy sector, especially in the last quarter of 2022. But next year we expect more power to come online and the growth to recover to 1.8%. More renewable power in particular should be connected. On the inflation front, the inflation is forecasted to come down to inside the target range of the South Africa Reserve Bank, 5.8% in 2023, and then continue coming down 4.8%. So we did welcome the recent increase in interest rates to 7.75%. That is why we expect inflation to converge to the target.
Well, obviously, that is one perspective that a lot of Nigerians will argue with, and we will, here in Business Morning, get an elaborate conversation on that in the coming days, beginning from tomorrow. So you just stay with us tomorrow, and then we would help you understand why the IMF believes that Nigeria's economy is one of the most stable on the continent, in spite of all that we have seen. Now, one of the things that makes Nigerians feel that the economy is shaky is the issue of the subsidy. We've been talking about it, and of course, we've heard that the federal government has gotten an $800 million from the World Bank. We do not really understand the condition or requirements around that 800 million naira yet. But as the date to end that petrol subsidy draws closer, there are talks as in how can the impacts, the harsh impacts, be curtailed? Where should the savings go to? Apart from that $600 million. And the oil marketers have been talking about building about 30,000 gas stations to cushion the effect of that proposed removal of subsidy on PMS, which you all know as petrol. But let's hear the perspective now of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria. We have the national president joining us virtually from Abuja. Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry joins us for this conversation. Dr. Harry, thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, channels, for having us. Good morning, Nigeria.
Great. So are you excited about this removal of subsidy? What's the stance of your association?
Well, we as an association that is focused on ensuring that petroleum product delivery is efficient, knowing fully well that this is a very critical input into the growth of the economy on a daily basis. We, for some time, have been on the side of removal of subsidies, and we have our very good reasons why. We are the last mile on the petroleum distribution value chain. So we are the ones that interface with the end users, farm hands, farmers, housewives, and everybody else, even up to the head of state of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, depends on our retail outlets for his daily assignments. So we are very, very certain that with the math we have done, that removing subsidy will help us. We cannot be investing trillions of naira in paying for subsidy when our refineries are lying comatose, they are not activated, we do not have effective pipelines working, our rail lines are not efficient. We could invest this money wisely and carefully with painstaker input and participation, because I think it has got to a time in Nigeria when we shouldn't leave what concerns us as it concerns growing the economy to the hands of only those who have elected to be in office. We as the people should be able to speak up and really do what is necessary to help our country to grow. So we are excited that subsidy removal is in the horizon, and the regulation will be fully settled. But however, we as an association also insist that there must be values that we must ensure are in place. For instance, if subsidy is going to be removed in June, we should expect stakeholder meetings and stakeholder intervention and stakeholder analysis of what this will mean. Not just leaving it to the government, to the ministers of finance and thereabout to determine what will happen to us. Because all we are hearing is we are looking for palliatives, we are borrowing money from World Bank, $800 million to pay. That is not going to help this country in any way. We already are a very heavily indebted nation, and we need to be careful and cautious about how much we are adding to our debt portfolio. So for us as an association, we are happy. We have offered solutions. The gas skills that are being talked about, Petron has been in the forefront of analyzing and profiling 17,000 retail outlets in the country to be able to benefit from the auto gas project. We have not seen where that is going. Now we are looking out for how we can fund that ourselves. We are hoping that when we start the process and get some level of access. This morning I just spoke to our financials and our technical experts who are going to have meetings with us later tonight to discuss the processes. We don't just want to come out and say this is what we're doing. We want to be sure that what we're doing is going to impact Nigeria and provide the necessary succor to cushion the removal of subsidy and full deregulation of the subset.
Okay, so sounds like, first of all, I'm curious. You say you have done your maths. It would be interesting to know that math. And then we would also like to know how you see this issue of gas stations working. But first of all, I mean, let us into that math that your association has done concerning this removal of subsidy.
Well, the math we've done is simple. We are spending, it's just a very simple arithmetic. We are spending about 6 point something trillion per annum to pay subsidies for only petrol. That is not the only source of energy that we should be dependent on. We should be dependent on gas, LPG, CNG, different kinds of gas that our association is also working. As I speak to you today, a critical member of the association is already applying for the flared gases to be able to convert them also into energy that can drive our automobiles and other motors. Now, if we take that 6 point something trillion and invest it in just only one refinery, say Warri Refinery, and that Warri Refinery in 9 months come on stream, we can easily project that we would have removed the cost of transferring business to other countries by doing the petroleum swap. We would have been sure that employment of our teeming youths would be guaranteed. We can be sure that because importation from foreign would have been removed, and so many middlemen costs would also have been removed, and the dollarization process would have been reduced very drastically, the cost of PMS may not even be in the neighborhood of what is being anticipated. If a Warri Refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery, the three refineries in both cities start working, we can be sure that we can easily produce at least 35 million liters of PMS per day for this country. So this maths doesn't need rocket science to analyze. But we, as an association, take our time to engage professionals, experienced men and women who have been in the industry for years, to work with us, to advise me as the national president on exactly what these situations will be. So we don't just bandy figures, we do our maths. And I've just given you just a little insight and oversight of how this can work. So then imagine that you have saved this money for 4 years. For 4 years, you are talking about a minimum of 24 trillion. 24 trillion naira can change this economy in every aspect, from transportation, air transportation, rail transportation, electric motors, farming, our cassava, to be able to produce ethanol, different kinds of agricultural cash products that can also be encouraged by this size of money, that Nigeria should not just be self-sufficient in internal food consumption, but also exports.
Okay, Dr. Harry, I'm wondering in that math, the reality is that we have not been saving this money. So that means, I mean, the 24 trillion you talked about does not exist. So that means that even if we start saving now, there's also the issue of the time lag, because if we were to start working on, as you noted, the Warri Refinery, there's a time for processing, for rehabilitation, for skills and all of that upgrade before it can start functioning. But as it is now, we're in April, and it's supposed to be by the middle of the year, subsidy will end. So I'm thinking, what is the reality of it now? Because even when you talk about saving the money that is used to pay subsidy, let's remember that the country is highly indebted and the government is still borrowing to fund the budget. So that means that some of those money are even still being borrowed. So these are some of the harsh realities that we need to...
Let me take some word from you so that we can, first of all, we don't need to save 24 trillion. Every day, as I speak with you, subsidy is being paid. So where are we getting the money from? We are getting it from borrowing with wagering of our crude oil sales. So you don't need to save 24 trillion to engage in the business. Now, every private sector businessman is involved in business for profit and for service. So if, as a businessman today, the government wakes up and says, Petron, we want you to work with us to take over Port Harcourt Refinery as it is today and make it work. I can wager anything to let you know that in less than 6 months, that refinery will work. Because we are not going to pad the costs. We'll be realistic. We'll be Spartan. We will definitely make sure that we put our money where our mouth is. So it is not about saving 24 trillion. I'm only just projecting a figure that if every year we are spending 6.something trillion and you are not going to spend that money in just paying subsidy, what is subsidy really? You are paying money for importing product that you are reducing the cost for consumers. How many years are we going to do that before we realize that we are running this country down and we'll get to a place where bread will be looking to cost about 2,000 naira, and then we are going to get ourselves into trouble. So we must all realize that this country is all we have and we must protect it. And that is why it's important to educate the teeming masses, to educate all the agencies, the associations, stakeholder institutions like NLC, Dupeng, IPMAN, MOMAN, DAPMAN, Petron, and as the case may be, that we all need to work to ensure that this country is safe. So that's just what I want to let you know. Okay? Now, so long as we are not paying that subsidy, and we are going to be inventive, we're going to think out of the box to make sure that our gas, our auto gas projects work. The auto gas is already working here. NIPCO is already running auto gas for a long time in this country. There are several vehicles that are being run on gas as I speak to you today. So what stops us from mass producing, from making sure that the government invests money in encouraging cars to be converted to gas? These are the things that we are talking about, and that's what the subsidy money today could be put in. We don't want to talk about health. We don't want to talk about education. We want to just focus on just that issue. So if you are going to put 6 trillion in paying subsidy, I can tell you that that's a lot of money to do. I mean, I'm a businessman. I know the meaning of 1 naira, and I know the meaning of 6 trillion naira. It's a humongous sum of money. So it's not something that we should just bandy around and say this is what we're spending. What's going to happen to our country in the next 20 years? That's what we should think about when we talk about subsidy.
All right, Dr. Harry, let me just chip this in before we let you go, because we're almost out of time. How do you see this gas station or auto gas working? Because as you've noted, I know the federal government talked about converting petrol cars to auto gas some years ago. I don't know how successful that has been. I've not personally had contact with a gas driven car. So how do you see that working? Where would the demand, or even if you're talking of the conversion, when should we start that conversion to be able to meet up? And I do know that oil markets are talking about going to the CBN to get loan to be able to implement this.
The CBN has before now promised to put about 500 billion on the table or more, and gave conditions precedent to accessing the money. That project has never happened. We have been briefed, 1 or 2 persons have had access to it. The conditions are very stringent, and it does not in any way encourage a young Nigerian businessman that's looking for capital to be able to invest in the business. But that's where our slogan, stronger together, comes to play. In Petron, we believe we are stronger together. So to let you know that the auto gas project can work. And all that is needed is not so much of how much central bank is going to loan us or not. So I wish everybody who is looking for central bank loan success. But honestly, Petron will not be looking at that, because at the end of the day, we as Petron have engaged central bank. And the conversations have never been in any way encouraging. They have set up regional committees. From the southeast, south, we have met with the central bank people there, and nothing great came out of it. So we are looking for, we've already sourced for companies that are willing to invest money in Nigeria. But of course, we need the policies to be stable, and we want the government to support us. We want the policy that is being rolled out for the auto gas project to support us. So that way, our 18,000 plus members we've already vetted about 17,000, out of which 7,000 are strategic locations that could be very successful in running the auto gas project. So we believe as an association that auto gas is a good thing. The Nigerian gas expansion program was a very bright idea, but we need to advance on the process, and stakeholders need to really hold the federal government accountable to that. But that also is one of the things that the president, before he doesn't take anything to disburse 500 billion. But what will it, 500 billion naira in this auto gas project will amount to little or nothing. Because you have to get the CNG border station, the doctor stations, you have to get the conversion centers, you have to get the conversion kits, you have to get into the conversion process. So we are not saying central bank should throw money into the ocean, but I mean, they should call us and engage us on exactly what are the rules, what are the terms that can make the auto gas project work with an association like Petro.
So if you give us like an imaginary timeline from your perspective, we know that
Yes.
subsidy has been provided for up until June, the middle of this year. So subsidy has to go according to the PIA. What should we be doing now? Because even when you talk about auto gas, you still have to get the buying of Nigerians and get them to convert. Majority of the cars in Nigeria are still petrol-driven. You know, to get them buying into that, convert their cars, and give us a proposed timeline that you see that is realistic for these gas stations and, you know, with the subsidy removal.
Let me say this. 1977, when I left secondary school, by 1978, most of us were shuttling to schools in the UK, US, and all of that. Most of us came back to Nigeria with dual fuel cars, gas and petrol. Since 1978, in Port Harcourt City, we drove cars with LPG cylinder in our cars, and we go and fill it and use LPG to fire our automobiles. So it is not a rocket science. There is really nothing so difficult about it. It's the availability of money to be able to do that. And today, science and technology and manufacturing has already brought in quite a lot of, reprieve. For instance, you can easily go to Taiwan or go to China or even go to Colombia and buy quality conversion kits. And once the conversion kits are there, for instance, petrol stations, at least about 1,500 of them registered for the conversion centers. So it's easy for the conversion kits to be sent, trained converters, which forms even a local employment vehicle. So conversion can be done in days, in months. And as they are converting, you can decide what type of gas that you want to use to run. Is it CNG? Is it LPG? And if any of these gases are in abundance, these gases are in abundance in Nigeria. So we can easily convert. And then the public getting it will be a matter of the cost of conversion. And the last time we checked, each vehicle can be converted with about 290-something thousand naira. Now, how do we work to reduce that money so that every Nigerian can be able to convert their cars? That is what I think we should be talking about. And that is what this money should be tailored and driven to. And organizations such as Petro should be consulted to be able to make, because we have documents, we have data, we have valuable resource to make this project work. And it's not a rocket science. It doesn't need 10 months to do. It needs just weeks. You can ship a whole cargo plane of conversion kits from China in 11 hours flight. So provide the money, and then we can be able to start working on it. Then give this, if government wants to do something really, really serious to work on this, they could even invest in that system and give it free to citizens.
All right.
That's what I advocate.
All right, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, National President, Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your ideas. We do wish the association will push forward these ideas, and then as the subsidy goes up, we'll see these new ideas. I guess it will be a lot of relief for Nigerians. It will bring down the cost of transport and hence food, which are the two major drivers of inflation in the country.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a break now. Talking about food, well, FX Commodity deals in that agricultural produce. Well, we'll have that conversation after this break here on Business Morning on Channels Television. Welcome to FX Time here on Business Morning. And I will start with giving you the price movement for the last trading week, which ended on the 10th of April. We can tell you that in that last trading week, we saw a mixed performance across key indicators. Looking at the turnover, it was down 8.15% from 4.17 billion naira to 3.83 billion naira. That's a huge reduction there. We also saw an increase of 2.29% in the volume of contracts traded. However, there was a decrease in the number of deals traded by 6.20% to close at 121, while the FX Commodity Index was up 0.04% marginally, closing the week at 472.18 index points. The FX Imports Index performed negatively, dropping from 225.48 points to 221.03 points. The volume of contracts traded, we saw increase in volume across maize, sorghum, cocoa, and sesame. Well, let's look at the price across export commodities now. Sesame topped the charts 9.07% to close at 1,230 naira 2 kobo. Others were in the red. They declined, starting with ginger. Ginger was down 12.69% to close at 118 naira 1 kobo. And we also saw cashew nuts. It was down also by 3.72% to close at 613 naira 64 kobo for a kilogram. Let's look at paddy rice now, still in the red though, and it was down 0.13%, closed at 318 naira 82 kobo for a kilogram. Cocoa, major exports from Nigeria, was down also marginally, 0.04%, to close at 1,886 naira 3 kobo. Across grain commodities, we saw maize, on the flip side, thank God, gained 1.58% to close at 227 naira 49 kobo, and that's a 1.58% gain. All right, we're still doing commodities time, FX commodities time now, and they would like to talk about accessing innovative funding instruments for agri-finances. In Africa, we have joining us virtually now Adeni Adejumobi. He's the investment manager with FX. Adeni, good morning. Good to have you. And you want to talk about access to finance, which FX believes is critical for the growth of the agricultural sector. You have several factors in the current global financial system that seem to be frustrating the development of that reliable financial services, especially in the rural areas. You have the availability and innovation of sector-specific financial instruments and services, among a whole other things. I mean, the issue of finance has been a major conversation in different now. From FX findings, you deal a whole lot with farmers and people in the agricultural value chain. What are the major inhibiting factors for this financial financial market today? Is there a chance of it shifting to a more sustainable system?
Just Yes, thank you very much for having me this morning.
That's all right.
Like you rightly said, there's a need to change the way we approach financing agriculture. Currently, what we see is that financial institutions and investors view agricultural-related businesses as high risks. And there's therefore the need for them to understand the operation of the various players in this sector and look at the ways for us to mitigate this passive risk. Most of the concerns are usually centered around credit risks, price risks, and liquidity risks, among other issues. But these are all issues that we can mitigate with the right financing structure. So, for instance, pivoting to a more sustainable approach, agri-processors can use their inventory as collateral in debt issuances. And by leveraging the exchange, you can discover prices for these commodities and properly value and mark to markets. By using this asset-backed transaction structure, we can enable processors to have access to capital and also reduce the risks inherent in it for investors.
Well, sounds interesting, talking about innovative funding instruments. But, I mean, we have a larger number of smallholder farmers. How can they access some of this innovative funding?
Yeah, so at Apex, we have some of the largest network of warehouses across 26 states, numbering about 150. So what we've been able to do is develop different financial products that speaks to smallholder farmers, especially the input finance notes. So what it does is that it provides access to finance for smallholder farmers by providing inputs for them during the farming season. As a business, we've identified key stakeholders at every stage of the value chain, and we've created financing products that address their specific needs and cater from pre-production all the way to post-production.
So would you say, I mean, beyond AFEX now, that the issue in Nigeria or in Africa generally is inadequate or ineffective policies? Which of them?
I would say a bit of both. So what we've seen, for instance, is that there are instances where government has thought about well-intentioned policies, but the implementation is a little bit harsh. For instance, let's look at the ban of the importation of rice in 2019. So the main reason for that was to stimulate local production. But what we saw happen was an increase in smuggling and inflation of rice that ended up affecting both the producers and the consumers of these products. What we can do is that we can all look for ways to educate people when we bring out these policies to ensure that they meet the intended problems that they come out to solve.
So would you say there are some low-hanging fruits, for policies and regulatory interventions from both government and non-governmental bodies to implement a remedy to the situation?
Definitely. I think the first thing we need to do is to educate people, like I said prior. The government policies are sometimes well-intended, but their implementation is sometimes what is sometimes lacking, or there's a gap in implementation. To address these policy gaps and the need for an holistic and even participation from everybody in the sector, not just the government, but also the private sector, civil organizations, even academia. Such an approach would definitely provide an enabling environment for private capital to move into the sector, not just, and also to retain it and require it to foster innovation and adoption of agricultural products as an investment.
All right, thank you so much. Adeni Adejumobi, Investment Manager with AFEX. Thank you, and we wish you the best at AFEX. More food for Africans.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Let's take a breather now. We'll be back with the markets. It's market time now. We head to Nigeria's equities market and not looking so good. Yesterday, the market was down 1.96%. There you have it there now, deeply in the red. And we're hoping that after last week's losses, that we'll be getting back up. And then you see there we have lost that. We're now at 51. Even though it's 51,950, but I mean, it's 51. That's what we have now. Went all the way to 55, from 55 to about this. Not looking so good at this time. And the equities cap is 23.8. 28.3 trillion naira. Let's look at the sectors and have an idea. So there you have it. That's what you have when you have a 1.96%. Airtel did it again yesterday. We're counting. Airtel has done this 3 times, twice last week, and this is a new week. Airtel was down again about 10% and dragged the market down. As we know, Airtel is the most capitalized stock on the NGX. So wherever it goes, the market goes, except in very, very rare instances. So Airtel dragged the market down yesterday, and of course, others follow suit. Wondering what investors are thinking now. We're thinking when elections are over that we'll get back to a normal life, but it doesn't look like that. But we're supposed to have Samuel Bameke to join us and give us some background to all of this. Samuel, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you, Samuel. But I wouldn't say it's a good day because, I mean, we had 4 negative trade last week. Now we have started again after the rest on Monday. On Tuesday, I mean, 1.96%. That's a huge drop.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's a huge drop. I mean, and if you look at the sentiment, it is across board. It is across all the various sectors on the exchange. We are seeing the banking sector, the consumer goods, industrial goods, all closing down. Even the telcos and even the agri sectors going down. I think that the buzz around the earnings seasons and most especially companies releasing good earnings and good dividends, we are seeing that buzz is gradually waning. And then we are seeing the, negative sentiment, prevailing in the market. And then essentially, I think that if you look at what is the stock that is dragging the market, like you earlier mentioned, it is Airtel. We are seeing a lot of, sell-off on Airtel and, profit taking on that ticker at the moment. And being the most capitalized stock on the exchange, it is expected that it will, drag the NGX ASI down. Then again, if you look at Airtel, the way it is, it has dual listing, and at the moment, we have some wide price disparity. If you look at the amount it is trading on the London Stock Exchange and the amount it is trading in on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. In the London Stock Exchange, trading about £1.08, and that's about 875 naira if you look at it. And then on the Nigerian Exchange, it's trading about 1,198 naira. And I think that is normal that we expect the market, correction and given the disparity, and at some point we should expect that, convergence in price. And I think that I really think that that's what we are seeing at the moment in the market as regards Airtel Africa.
But do we know what's actually driving these negative sentiments on Airtel? Because normally you see maybe 1 day, max 2 days, and then you see a recovery because, investors will try to jump on board, with the lowered prices. But it's a third one now from last week till today.
So that's what I'm trying to explain, that you see, you see investors, buy cheaper on the London Stock Exchange, then comes to Nigeria, market to sell, given that price disparity. But I think that given that wide disparity in price, we should actually see a convergence in price, and that's what we are seeing at some point. Because looking at what is trading at on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and what is trading on the London Stock Exchange, the gap is wide at the moment. So that's why we are seeing that sell pressure on it. So investors are typically just taking advantage of the low price on the London Stock Exchange and coming here to sell at the high price. And the more they sell, the price will drop, and then we'll have that convergence that we're talking about.
Any idea when this sentiment will flip?
At the moment, the sentiment in the market is bearish at the moment, and a lot of factors are, driving that at the moment. First, if you look at the macroeconomic environment, it's really not so. There's really not so much good news in the macroeconomic environment at the moment. Investors are expecting inflation numbers. That's one. Two, if you look at the fixed income market, the expectation from investors is that rates would, somewhat, trend upward marginally or at best hover at current levels at the moment. So investors would want to, there's a possibility of a rotation of funds into the fixed income market at the moment, given that rates have risen to as about 14% as at the last auction. As the last treasury bill auction we had for the 364-day instrument. So the sentiment at the moment, the bearish sentiment might prevail, might still prevail in the market, although prices of some tickers are at attractive levels, where investors can actually take advantage for for price appreciation and dividend yield. Yes, dividend yield, because when prices are low, dividend become high. So at the moment we think that the overriding sentiment will still remain negative, except we see a turn in the tide of things, especially when it comes to large cap stocks. If we see significant buying on large cap stocks, then we can see the market change the direction. But from where we stand at the moment, we think that the bearish sentiment would still prevail in the market.
All right, thank you so much, Samuel Banike, investment analyst with Meristem Securities.
Thank you.
Well, I guess one of the good things about the bearish market is an opportunity for some investors to jump on board and make the most of it. We have to head to London, but just before we go, let's see the next slide and see what else we can get there. The top trades were yesterday, Zenith Bank and UBA, led by Transcorp. But I think that's the most we can take. Let's head over to London now. Juliana is standing by, and I believe we have the girls let Juliana out of the house this morning, so we're having Juliana join us from the studio. Juliana, I hope I'm correct. Good morning. Yeah, so good to have you in the studio, Juliana, but not very good from what we're hearing from the IMF. They're saying that the UK will remain the worst performing economy, compared that's in the G7, and even something that the Russia economy, in spite of the sanctions, will be doing better than the UK. Not good news at all.
Yeah, not great news, really. But I suppose we're used to having pretty gloomy forecasts from the International Monetary Fund, which is, of course, the UN financial agency. You only have to look at some of the headlines in the British press this morning. One from The Telegraph saying, why does the IMF keep underestimating Britain? And, of course, anyone who's familiar with The Telegraph knows that it's pretty much a mouthpiece for the Conservative government. But, that's what the IMF has done. They produced their quarterly World Economic Outlook yesterday, and of course high inflation, high interest rates were pretty much topping the theme, and they have said that for 2023 that the UK economy is likely to contract 0.3%, which Jeremy Hunt, the British Chancellor, has seen as a good thing because of course back in January when they released their outlook, the contraction for the UK economy was to be 0.6%, so at least it has dropped that negative forecast, and the Chancellor has been able to spin that by saying, look, the fact that they've dropped it from 0.6 to 0.3% shows that we are increasing our economy more than any other G7 nation. So I suppose it's semantics and how you look at data. Also important to note that Germany has also been added to contraction. I believe the IMF says that they're going to see a contraction by 0.1%. But again, this is all about the data, and it's looking at the PMI and the forensic information we're getting from the Bank of England. And it does show that we are still struggling. Yes, we did manage to get ourselves out of a technical recession last year. It's likely that we won't go into it this year, but there are significant issues. And some of these were highlighted by the IMF yesterday, including our aging population, including the fact that our labour market is still struggling at the moment. We still have record high vacancies, over 1 million. It's very difficult to get high-skilled people into important jobs at the minute. Business confidence is waning. Of course, we can't not talk about CPI, which is at 10.1%. So there are significant issues that are weighing on our economy being able to grow. They've been highlighted by the International Monetary Fund, but of course, these are just forecasts. And we know that the IMF can get it spectacularly wrong. And I think the Chancellor and the Prime Minister are crossing their fingers, hoping that they're wrong again this time.
Well, reminds me of the perspective on Nigeria too, saying it's one of the stable economies, and Nigerians are being what with all of the macroeconomic challenges that we have. But we'll talk on that. And you're still hosting the UK. You're still hosting President Biden. How's his visits going?
Yeah, pretty interesting. Of course, any time the US president has a foreign trip, it is going to be important and make headlines, particularly when it comes to the UK, of course, because the UK and the US share a very special relationship, as it's been dubbed. It went through a pretty significant turmoil during Boris Johnson's years because he famously didn't get on with Joe Biden. In fact, Joe Biden shunned him. But Joe Biden, as the headlines have said, is the most Irish of US presidents. He arrived last night in Belfast, which is the capital of Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom. Very complicated island is the island of Ireland. And I think the White House, as well as senior political statesmen in the UK, have tried to play down the role that Joe Biden is likely to cast over the next 4 days, because American politicians cannot resolve the issues that are in place. Of course, this is all about the Good Friday Agreement. Joe Biden's trip is going to be slightly different from the commemoration we're going to see later in the week, where we will see former US President Bill Clinton, as well as Hillary Clinton and Sir Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister, attending a series of events. But he's brought along Hunter Biden, the infamous son. Some would say he's infamous, as well as his sister. He does have this Irish ancestry, so it's certainly a mixture between formal and family. But in terms of trying to resolve the power sharing issues, I think Britain have said that, America needs to stay out of this one for now. But yes, it's an important trip, and lots of colour and pomp and ceremony should be expected within the next 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah, Juliana, that statement that America needs to stay out of this one, I would like just painted some pictures in my mind, but I guess we'll stay more on this President Biden's visit on Business Incorporated that in the coming days. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later today.
Talk to you then.
All right, so let's move to crypto space now. And I think I'm occupying his space. Oh, it's not yet his space yet. Oh, now it is.
Oh, now.
Now it is crypto space.
Right.
So Ladi is still smiling. I think I did see that even though Bitcoin tapered, the bid is back on 30.
Yeah, back on 30.
Very high bull run.
Yeah, and they're trying to stay above that 30 level, but there's a lot of volatility.
We're going to fight
around that price.
We're going to fight it, Laddie, because NGX is down and it went down 1.96%. We're going
so you want
fight.
This one to the
we have to have
right.
We have to face this red together.
Right, I know what you mean. So many forecasts coming from the spring meetings. I'm wondering what they're going to say about Bitcoin.
Say about crypto, yes.
Going
Don't
forward.
worry.
Waiting for that one for sure. Obviously, in the market right now, we still have greed, 65 points for the total crypto space, showing sentiment right now. If you look at the price of major cryptocurrencies we track right here, there we see Bitcoin. They're holding that 30K level. Look at the price list there of cryptocurrencies that we track. We see Bitcoin still holding 30,000. Ethereum still trying to get above that 2,000 level, but not there yet. Pull back 2.85%, $1,865. But see Bitcoin there, a lot of volatility around this level, $30,070, still hovering there in that tight range between 30 and 29,000. But we'll see that pullback 0.52%. We see BNB there being hammered there, 3.39%, $380. XRP not looking bad, 50 cents down. 3.46%. So these have had, quite good surges from the past couple of days. So we're seeing pullback, some taking profit, and the bears and bulls battling this market right now. Let's bring in Olumide Adesina, our financial market analyst. Hello, Olumide.
Hello, Daddy. Thanks for having me. Good
morning, Olumide. So I got that a tweet from you earlier about Google searches about USDT, that's the stable coin, and we're seeing Nigerians are topping the list of Google searches for USDT. Why are we searching for that stable coin at this time?
Yeah, surprisingly, it tells you that Africa's largest economy citizens have and high inputs in the crypto market, because oftentimes we use stable coins to purchase some of these volatile assets, particularly Bitcoin and other altcoins. And that really tells you that the Naira scarcity had a big play in that. Also, the fact that a lot of Nigerians are looking for dollar exposure with the very rigid FX market we have. So Nigeria happens to have a perfect score of 100. But also, if you look at the crypto market right now, interesting signs. Despite the hawkish Fed, Bitcoin is up 80% for the year, and we are seeing interesting opportunities, particularly the fact that USDT, the staple coin, moderated as low as 702 before depreciating as much as 731 against the dollar. So it tells you that Nigerians particularly are really interested in the market, but we're seeing different fundamentals. You know, if you recall, some hours ago, Binance USD listed Tron and another token because of concerns about manipulation, weak liquidity, and other details not shared, you know. And that just tells you that the market is maturing, they're trying to become self-regulated, and also ensuring that when regulation really comes to play, the market would still be much more relevant. And that's what we're really seeing in this space, Ladi.
Now, we can't deny the fact that obviously stable coins, even though they're supposed to be stable, they can be quite risky. You know, at this time we've seen the pegs from USDC, but it did get that peg back. Algorithmic stable coins, you know, losing pegs. How risky is this? You know, we know USDT is the biggest one, but there's still risk.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It has substantial amount of risk. You know, it's still private, run by a private entity. But I think what USDT or Tether have been able to do is that they back most of their assets with safer asset underlying instruments, particularly the US Treasury. So before that, they've been using risky assets and corporate bonds to support for higher yields. But based on the systemic importance they play in the market, they felt it's safer. So interestingly, they are heavy buyers of the US Treasury bond market. And also, we've seen that the peg around that stable coin has really been reduced because of the high liquidity and openness of their reserve.
All right, Limited. Thanks so much, financial market analyst. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, for the top gainers today, we see Flare token 3 cents is topping the counter, 3.78%. We're seeing a lean gainers counter for the top 100 coins on the coin market cap. There's Solana. They're having quite a move up, 2.62%, $22. We know what happened with Solana last year. Still trying to recover from all of that FTX issue there and holding on. Render token, $1.58, up 2.22%. So, Ini, at the end of the day, everyone's looking for stability, you know, in most of these markets.
I laughed when you asked the Lumidita, what are Nigerians looking for?
Yeah, what are we searching for?
We're looking for money.
So apparently, the Naira scarcity impacting everyone,
changing perspective, creating new platforms, attracting more investors in the on the digital platform, you know, and the non-conventional investments.
For the cash scarcity, we have winners and losers at the end of the day.
Yes, we do. All right, Laddie. See you at 1:30.
All right, see you.
Thank you. So that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Do remember to join Laddie Williams 1:30 Business Incorporated, and you can watch Business Morning and all our other business shows on Channels Television YouTube channel. It's always there for you, so you can relieve this at any time. But I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, make some money, and stay happy.